Early morning in late January, footage released by the Home Office shows almost 50 people being loaded onto a government deportation flight. Half are foreign national offenders, and some who pose a higher risk have been restrained as they're led on board.
The rules really need to be respected and enforced for the asylum and immigration system to work. That's why since the election we have been increasing returns, so 19,000 people who have no right to be in the UK have now been returned, and also increasing the illegal working raids and going after the employers who are exploiting migrant workers.
Immigration raids have also been stepped up, with a record number of arrests and frontline footage released by authorities, all aimed to discourage illegal migration. But there's a political aim too.
Nigel Farage in the house.
Nigel Farage's Reform Party has been on the march in the polls and striking a hardline tone on immigration. And this is why the government is worried. Reform finished second in 98 constituencies in last year's general election. 90% of these were won by Labour, mainly seats in the party's traditional heartlands in the north and Wales. And they include Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner's seat, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper's seat, and Wolverhampton South East, held by Cabinet Office Minister Pat McFadden. Voters in that Midlands seat not yet impressed by Labour.
Still struggling to get it all sorted, ain't they? With this immigration thing they're trying to get in place. They still keep coming in.
Just very dissatisfied with the government and the opposition.
So there's more people voting for reform now. It needs to be sorted out, doesn't it? The country's in a mess.
It's that disillusionment the Home Office is trying to dispel by shouting about any successes they notch up.
Sources here say the increase in enforcement activity is partly down to staff being moved across from working on the old Tory government's Rwanda policy. But there still hasn't been any sustained drop in small boat arrivals, and trying to fight reform on their own turf carries risks too.
This former advisor to Jeremy Corbyn says it's a doomed strategy.
Labour aren't going to out-reform reform. It isn't a vote-winning strategy. If you shift further and further into anti-migrant politics from the centre or the so-called centre-left, you don't reduce the salience of those issues, you drive them up. What they should be doing if they want to show that they're improving people's lives is actually improving people's lives.
Ministers will shoulder some internal criticism over this approach if it means hanging on to wavering voters. Eyes already on the next election and the political threats on the horizon. Rob Powell, Sky News in Westminster.